So if you know anything about us, you know that we love trashy YA nonsense.
We were watching the hit film Beastly. 5 stars out of 5.
Take her to whatever bad boy country house Daddy's got.
Daddy don't got.
As I was watching cinematic masterpiece Beastly, I was like, God, Netflix has killed the theatrical release of bad movies for teenagers. I think it loses something when we don't get to see it in the theater with a bunch of other people who've made this similarly poor financial choice. But I think there's one exception to that rule.
Oh, yes, there is. After is a series of films based on a Harry Styles fan. I can't even say it. After is a series of films based on a Harry Styles fan fiction that was then adapted into a novel and then turned into a wonderful series of movies, and more movies than you might think. There are currently 6 planned. There's something about the After franchise that I find...
Have you never been touched before?
Immoral, obviously, is one
Yes.
word, but I would say just like irresistible. Like, I can't look away. Today we are going to be watching After We Collided and After We Fell, because the 4th movie, Happy Ever F***ing After something.
I don't think that's
Oh no, it's
the name.
After Ever Happy. That's what it is.
After Ever Happy. That's
it's called.
not
I
correct.
swear to God, it's called that. So where do we start?
I'm going to give After credit in one department, and only one, which is that they really captured the experience of reading a fan fiction. The random pauses, the completely unnatural dialogue.
Who brings books to college? Me, I guess.
The outfits, the main character having no personality. I'm a little confused of all the fan fictions that this is the one that got like a book series and a movie. It's just such a boring story with such bland characters. It's like, why was this the one?
I expected the first time I watched these movies that they would be like crazy. Because what I like about YA stuff like this, even the newer teen dramas, is that they're usually pretty nuts. But After plays it so straight and is so self-serious that in a way it's also funny, obviously.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch with someone else, but it's entirely fun from like a making fun of it perspective. There's not anything exciting happening.
The Great Gatsby. It's a good book. Hate to spoil it. But it was all a dream.
So the story follows Tessa Young, who is a freshman in college, and meets Hardin Scott, who is not Harry Styles, but also is intended to be.
He's British. He shares several tattoos with him. They have the same initials.
Some of the peripheral characters were also One Direction members.
Yes. Zayn, who is now Zed in this.
Nice to meet you. My name is Zed.
Landon, he's Hardin's stepbrother, and he's based on Liam Payne.
My mom is dating Chancellor Scott. Chancellor Scott is Hardin's dad.
His father's the chancellor.
So Tessa and Hardin have a sort of connection immediately in that they are both protagonists and they decide to be attracted to each other. There's no real reason, despite the fact that she does fully have a boyfriend.
Your brother's cute. Oh, you mean Noah? No, he's my boyfriend.
They do not look alike at all. They just both have like a virginal quality. Yes, you're not really rooting for these two crazy kids because she is in a committed years-long relationship with a guy who doesn't do anything wrong. Like, it's not a situation where she's in a bad relationship and you're rooting for her to get out and like find someone who treats her right. It's like her boyfriend's fine.
Yeah. You have a boyfriend.
Come on, girl. All these scenes where they're by the water and they're making out, or when he straight up goes down on her when she's just left her boyfriend alone in her dorm room.
Yes.
She seems to feel no conflict about that whatsoever until her boyfriend then like breaks up with her.
Please, can we just go inside and talk?
How are you going to explain it? You just cheated. It's not a situation of, I know this looks bad, but that's not what happened.
It is what happened.
It's not what you think. It is. I wish he hit her.
And having her and Noah reconcile at the end just feels so weird. Like, he would not be okay with that at all. It's like the movie avoids conflict at all opportunity.
Yeah, there's no lasting conflict aside from, like, Molly.
Yeah.
Who's just evil.
People who just show up and are mean to her.
We're not together anymore. Ouch.
Bye-bye high school.
Yeah, it was pretty painful.
When Tessa's describing her parents' marriage falling apart, like, I was waiting for the reveal, like, oh yeah, my dad cheated on her, and now I feel bad because I'm doing the same thing. She doesn't know if she likes who she's becoming, what she wants, but then she discovers that even though she's been told she's not supposed to want these things by her mom, by her culture, by society, like, have her realize who she really is and what she really wants and go after it, like a story.
Yeah, like a character arc, I
Yeah.
think is something that this movie is sorely missing.
Yeah.
That also captured the fanfic vibe because she has no character. She just shows up and she's like, I'm really good at school and I'm a virgin.
I like books.
I like books. I read the top 5 most read classic books of all time, much like the people One Direction writes songs about, which are all just like, you're a girl and you don't feel so good about yourself sometimes.
I love that one. That's a classic.
The little things are just like, you're a little chubby girl.
You still have to squeeze into your jeans.
It's wish fulfillment where you're like, I'm a good girl who hasn't had experiences, but someday I'm gonna rebel and get a hot boyfriend and do hot missionary all over the place.
It'll just happen to me.
That's how it goes when you go to college.
Yeah.
The movie, I just feel like people who are not 14 were gonna see versus the fan fiction. I'm sorry if you were an adult who read after.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry that is going on in your life. Sorry for whatever happened to get you to that place. But the fan fiction was clearly aimed more at a younger audience, maybe a nerdier audience, the kind of people who read One Direction fanfic. And it just makes less sense to see in a movie because I don't want a protagonist in a movie who's that bland. I don't want to be trying to sub in all my characteristics to this girl.
The story's just a lot of Tessa and Hardin hanging out, montage, just going and going, and then we arrive at the climactic reveal, the shocking twist. It was all a bet.
Here's a dare. Make her fall in love with me.
It was all a game.
Am I a bet? Am I a f***ing bet?
Tangent. You may know that after the movie centers around a bet wherein Hardin told people that he could make her fall in love with him. Now, this already is incredibly stupid, but it's actually an improvement from the bet in After the Fanfiction and I believe After the Novel, in which the bet is actually Hardin promising he can take her virginity. Now, I know what you're thinking. We've heard that one before. It's not that bad. Well, it is the way Anna Todd does it, because in the end, the way he proves to his friends that he's won the bet is by bringing blood-stained sheets in the back of his car to prove that she lost her virginity in his bed. Now, this is not a foolproof piece of evidence in my opinion on account of the fact there's a million ways you could get blood on your sheets, but it's also just so incredibly creepy. And she finds the bloodstained sheets in the back of the car and for some reason goes to, oh, you made a bet about my virginity and not you're a murderer.
So we're brothers.
Yep.
Well, he's been through a lot. Hardin Scott witnessed the most horrifying event a young boy can witness.
One night when I was 8, my dad was at the pub. He messed with the wrong guys. They came to our house for payback.
This was another staple of One Direction fanfic specifically. Every One Direction fanfiction would have some insanely tragic, f***ed up plot point. Like, the origin stories were so dark. Hardin's mom is, like, brutally attacked in front of him. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it has nothing to
He's
do
like,
with anything.
Whenever he's complaining about his dad, he's like, he was a drunk.
My father was a drunk. And nothing more.
And you think it's going to be like, oh, well, Hardin has these alcohol problems and he gets violent. Maybe it's going to be that his dad was also a violent alcoholic and he really sees those behaviors in himself and he doesn't like it. But no, the reason he resents him is because basically a wrong place, wrong time situation.
They came to our house for payback. He wasn't there. They found my mom instead.
And it's the same as Tessa's dad. They could have had it be like, he cheated on my mom and abandoned us, and now I'm worried you're going to do the same, or I'm worried I'm doing the same.
There's clearly like some sort of connection that anyone else would have written there. Like something that would thematically connect to Hardin.
It was so blatantly obvious. But the thing about fan fiction is people were publishing these things weekly. It wasn't like a finished product. Some people, I think, finished the book and just released a chapter every week. But a lot of people were releasing chapters every week and were probably writing them every week, or at least some of the time. And so you get a lot of filler chapters where people are begging you to do something.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'll just have a chapter that's Tessa and Hardin going to a library.
This sounds and looks like a Viagra commercial.
True. Side effects may include depression,
Being British.
psoriasis. So many things in the fan fiction don't need to be there. They were just there to keep the fans happy. And they cut most of that filler, which makes sense. But I think there's still things that just don't flow very well.
There's nothing to it. The characters don't do anything. Things just happen.
We don't see a relationship build at all.
Harden.
That was
a
an order. Yeah.
Overall, bad.
Bad.
I'd say bad.
Yeah, down to the ending, which is just Hardin handing in an extended love letter to Tessa, to his English professor for some reason, and then she gives Tessa the essay and says,
"This is what Hardin turned in. I think it was actually written more for you than it was for me."
He also hands it in with a hand-drawn portrait of her and a photograph. I've never in my life handed in an essay with, bonus art.
Also weird to use the professor as a middleman when your stepbrother is her best friend.
True. Get Landon to hand it in.
Yeah.
Or you know where she lives.
Imagine if it were our place.
Wait, you mean live together?
Just sucks, top to bottom. Nothing good, nothing valuable.
Just terrible. But I love it.
Man's wearing the Dear Evan Hansen shirt.
Evan Hansen's at this party. All right, After We Collided, the greatest sequel of all time. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say in terms of jumps in quality between a first and second movie, this is up there.
You see, this is our story. Tessa's and mine.
So After We Collided picks up the story a month after the tragic falling out between Tessa and Hardin. Both of their lives have been shattered. Well, actually, Tessa's doing pretty well. Honestly, Tessa's doing much better without Hardin, and that's kind of a theme in the movie. It's following up on the same threads. A lot of the actors are back, some are not.
Well, yeah.
I'm happy you decided to join us, son.
Trish. It's Ken.
Is it?
Is it?
They seem different.
Something's changed here. The characters who were main players in the last one basically show up as like cameos now. Like her mom is there for one FaceTime / call. It's unclear.
One shot. Only one shot.
For one shot where she has a frame photo of her daughter's ex-boyfriend under her light switch. The ex-boyfriend comes back for one scene to say like 3 funny lines.
And everything's cool with the whole thing with your dad.
What whole thing with my dad?
What? Nothing.
Every line he says in that scene is funny.
I blew it, Carol. I don't know what happened.
Her roommate and the other members of One Direction show up really, really briefly at like a party. Every lesbian in Toronto dresses exactly like Zed. Either like Zed or like Hardin. They're just not central characters anymore. Now we've moved on to the Vance plot line.
She's the best intern Vance Publishing has ever had.
You mean to tell me you read 3 books and did coverage on all of them last night?
She is then invited to a very important event where they're trying to secure funding for an expansion of the publishing house.
Where they bring her underage to a club to meet a client.
She is brought underage to a club, served a lot of alcohol by the guy who is supposedly going to invest, and then the next morning they're all hungover and Vance is like, yeah, he signed the check. So
We were going to hire someone to do digital submissions in Seattle, but you're better than anyone I've interviewed.
She's promoted to such a senior position when all she's done is pick out one good book. She read 3. She said 1 was good.
And you think Carnival of Light by Nico Tanaka is a great read. I'll cut to the chase. We went with the manuscript you recommended, and it's sold today and quite a bit more.
Maybe she's 20, but I think she's supposed to be 18 or 19.
Well, she started her freshman year of college a month ago, so...
That just seems like a lot of responsibility to hand to a teenager who read 3 books.
Hey.
Hey, Hardin, good to see you. How you been? Fucking Trevor!
All of these movies introduce a love interest who is obviously better for the character.
Yeah.
And whenever they fall back on the original guy, it always kind of feels like a loss. Like, it always kind of feels like, am I supposed to be happy about this?
But then they always make a guy who on paper is a lot better for her and then just have him do something weird or wrong.
I answered your cell phone. It was Hardin, and I told him to stay away from you.
What? Tangent. We can assume that Trevor, as it's hinted at he might be a love interest, we're not supposed to think he's a big creep, right? So given that Tessa is about 19 years old at the maximum, we can safely assume he's not more than what? 24, 25. Now, both of them have been promoted to senior positions. From what we can tell, they are the backbone of the Seattle branch of Vance Publishing, along with Vance's fiance. But are we supposed to believe that this company is essentially being run by people whose frontal lobes have not fully developed? Is every executive at this company either sleeping with the boss or under the age of 25?
Come on, release the pain.
I like the pain.
So much of this movie was clearly written by someone trying to be edgy who I don't think either hadn't had these experiences or didn't really know how to accurately or portray them in a nuanced way.
That's very fair.
My sister has struggled with addiction her whole life. This thing between you and Hardin, it's not gonna end well.
Well, you're wrong.
On a bigger level with Tessa having this issue with her dad, they make it so intense, the idea that he's a homeless addict.
Tess. Hey.
Dad?
If she grew up with a father who was an addict, wouldn't she be more apprehensive about dating someone with an addiction? Like, wouldn't she be more on edge? Like, when Hardin drinks, she doesn't get upset. She'll be a little disappointed, but I feel like that would be such a violation of trust if you were someone who grew up with an addict parent, your boyfriend who claims to be sober.
Are you drunk?
I don't drink.
Constantly relapsing would be a lot more stressful than she makes it out to be.
Yeah.
She sometimes gets a little upset, but also she's like, let's go to parties which are full of alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where he always relapses.
I f***ing watched it happen, you bastard! I'm sorry, Mom. I had to.
There's a lot more sex in this one.
They look a lot more natural, but I still don't think they did a very good job.
They're trying to keep it relatively censored, which again, I appreciate that it's not really graphic because these are supposed to be like basically kids, like adults, but like still basically kids. And they look like
kids. And
kids.
It's a movie kids are gonna watch.
Yeah. It's funny that it's clearly trying to be sexy and like Tessa's taking more control of her sexuality in these scenes, and like it's a lot more like mutually enjoyable and not like just all first time stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also weird and awkward at the same time. This one's a little harder to talk about, I think, just because it feels more like a comedy.
The other one is fun to watch just to laugh at, like purely. There is nothing of value in that movie, in my opinion.
The stakes are so low.
Steph's hot, and that's basically all there is that I think is unironically good in that movie.
True, yeah, that's about it.
Versus this one, like there were jokes I laughed at. I thought Trevor was great.
Trevor!
I'm drunk, uncomfortable, and I saw a tampon on the ground. I'm leaving.
The ending of this movie is pretty nuts, because Hardin and Tessa have their 1000th argument about how they can't trust each other and don't get along, and then Tessa gets in a car accident.
Hello?
How could you do this to Tessa?
Tessa, where is she?
I'm not telling you.
London, where is she?
I'm not telling you!
There's so much that happens and yet so little. Like, so many events occur, and yet the actual forward motion of the story and the characters is so minute. Hardin and Tessa aren't together. Then they are, then they're not, then they are.
We're like an addiction to each other with equal parts pleasure and pain. And as for that other night, girls,
it's been 1 month. Everything feels so much more dramatic in terms of romance when you're at that age, and everything feels like it's the only time it's ever going to happen. In the context of the story, I believe these characters might think that, but the fact that their social circles are so small and they don't even really seem to talk to anyone besides each other or their bosses and their parents and their exes. Maybe that's why you don't have healthy relationships.
It's not necessarily unrealistic, but it's just hard to watch.
And somewhere in the back of my mind, I always knew we wouldn't last, and I know this is going to be painful at first, and it could take days, even more. One of those days.
I get it because it's supposed to be Harry Styles, but from a woman's perspective, if you will, what is appealing about Hardin?
He's like edgy and tormented. Girls love a you can fix him narrative.
That tracks.
The thing about After, at least from what I recall of reading the fanfic, is she never fixes him. He never gets better. In fact, he kind of gets worse. Like throughout it, he gets more and more jealous. Every time their relationship is good, something goes wrong and all progress is lost.
The majority of characters who speak about Tessa and Hardin to either one of them, say that they're just terrible for each other.
I thought we got past this little hiccup once you got your heart broken.
Mature, that doesn't really sound like...
No, it doesn't.
You're toxic and you're bad news.
That seems to be everyone's read of the situation, and there is no significant counter to that perspective beyond Tessa saying, well, you're wrong.
Of course I f***ing love her. I've never felt this way about anyone before.
It's worth the ride in comparison to the first one, which is so slow and plodding.
And it is absolutely hilarious, the sheer volume of people they recast.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the series.
And will recast.
I mean, they got Tessa and Hardin back or whatever. But given his dad is pretty integral to the plot, at least of the first two.
Yeah.
You would think you'd want to be like, hey, Peter Gallagher, loved you on the OC. Do you think you'll be around in 2 years to do another one day of filming? Because...
Wait, just give me...
Take your clothes off. Take your clothes off in the shower.
Why would you get in the shower
what are you
before
doing?
taking your clothes off?
Wow. After We Fell is a film.
I was so disappointed. We had such good momentum coming off of the second one. I really thought we'd hit a turning point and we got a good thing going. And then immediately we reverted.
Yeah.
They immediately went back to their characters in the first movie, which is to say, like, no character.
You think about these actors spending like hours on set. What are they thinking? How do you approach the character of Hardin Scott as an actor? How do you get into that headspace?
Is there something you want to tell me, or should I ask Landon, because he seems to know a hell of a lot more than I do?
Not today, Satan.
Regressing his character like that into a more angry, volatile, untrustworthy version of himself would be a good move if the intention was to make some sort of point about that. He's just worse. Their relationship is much worse.
There is a big difference between not being able to live without someone and loving them.
What?
They're together, and we know how dysfunctional the relationship is because it's all we've seen for 3 movies. So, like, it's just stewing in this misery, and they keep coming up with reasons for them to fight and have sex and fight and have sex and fight and have sex, and that's all that happens.
I feel like hot tub sex is such a bad idea.
Awful.
The bacteria. And I know because of the nature of the story that in the end, she's going to stay in it and it's going to be framed as a good thing. Like, it's going to be love overcoming.
Well, that's the end of the movie even.
Well, yeah, even the end of the movie, she's just sticking by him. And it's like, there were certain things throughout it where I kind of thought they were going to maybe say, hey, this is a bad idea. Having her father come back. And in the movie, he's an alcoholic instead of a drug user, which makes it even more similar to Hardin. Like, I was like, oh, they're trying to make the similarity really obvious.
Yeah.
They even had that conversation where the dad's like,
I'm gonna get better for her. I'll get better.
but really, you know, it's pretty clear he's probably not going to succeed at that. They go to the bar, he gets in a fight, and Hardin does too. Like, they're drawing all these similarities as if to say, well, this guy really failed you before. Like, this is the source of pretty much all your trauma, and now you've been drawn to a guy who's exactly the same.
Yeah, the movie acknowledges the parallels between Hardin and her father, but does nothing about them at all.
I am trying.
You know, you really remind me of me when I was your age.
He's an alcoholic, and so were you.
I have a tangent. The nature of adaptation is to transfer a story from one medium to another. This story was based on a very episodic fan fiction that was written in a straight line, but the movie was based on a completed work of fiction. This movie was written when they knew what the ending of After was. They knew the whole arc of After. So my question is, why not change more? Now, I know deep down they knew they didn't have to, and that's why. It's just laziness. They were cashing in on some brand. I'm not even mad. I'm just kind of disappointed that no one saw fit to not like completely overhaul the story, but looked at the very obvious points where nothing was happening and didn't think, maybe we should add like a little bit of something.
Teresa Lynn Young. Are you trying to have phone sex with me?
I think with After We Collided, the idea was at least to like make it a little lighter, a little more fun. It feels like with this one, because they knew they were going to do the third and fourth one, because I have a feeling this franchise wasn't assured until this one got made.
Mm-hmm.
They figured, okay, we can just coast with the rest of this and set up the conflict of the next one where things will actually happen.
And they definitely wanted to like leave stuff, dramatic things for the fourth one.
Yeah.
But the issue is the drama in these movies doesn't really work. It's all so manufactured. It's all so forced.
Did you ever have feelings for him?
There was a moment when...
Hey!
The only significant thing you find out in this movie about any of the characters is that Vance is actually Hardin's real father.
Hardin is Christian's son.
Dun dun.
A twist that they felt was good enough to end the movie on. I disagree.
Vance?
Yeah. He's been f***ing my mom.
Please, Hardin!
You have to assume that on some level they think this is an improvement because this is the vision they've committed to for the end of the franchise.
I suspect they might have gotten notes from people who are like fans of the book saying the second movie was too
fun and enjoyable.
Too silly. Maybe because Hardin's goofier in it. And I thought that made him more charming, like more attractive. But if people were going into it for edgy bad boy with tortured past,
yeah,
then you kind of lose some of that when he actually has like a sense of humor and kindness behind the eyes.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to speak to my assistant.
Recast. 2 recasts. Oh my god, it's so hard to form attachment to the secondary characters when they change every movie.
Okay, I spy with my little eye something black.
Easy, hard and soul.
I like new Landon. I will say I feel like he's a better actor than old Landon, though old Landon might have been a good actor too. He just didn't get anything to work with.
True, yeah.
Recasting Hardin's stepmom again, hilarious choice.
Vance and Kimberly are both recast as well.
Oh my god. I'm sorry, I can't believe they couldn't get Caroline from the Vampire Diaries back. What was she doing that was so important?
They got Lexi from the Vampire Diaries instead.
Thank you for keeping an eye on this one.
The most jarring and also funniest recast of this movie is that they recast Vance and made him British.
He's just British now.
Tessa, why aren't you in the office?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was...
Kidding. Happy New Year.
You're looking forward to visiting home? I know I am.
Home is where?
It's where the heart is.
Which home? Because...
It's where the Hardin is.
I could have sworn... Oh my god. Boo.
Look, relationships are complicated.
I hate that this is the corner of the market for like teenage girls because I would really like it if teenage girls were given a little bit more credit.
No, I agree.
As an audience,
really agree.
The appeal of this franchise, it comes from fan fiction. It's buying into a fantasy, but there's no aspect of the fantasy. I mean, I'm saying this as a 24-year-old straight male, so I can't, tap into it as well as the audience is intended to. But like, there is no part of this as a fantasy that is being presented as good.
Can't help but think that you should be with someone else.
Yep, she should.
Yep, absolutely. At every turn, they're like, this is a problem. Hardin's not good. He's not changing. It's not working. Like, this is the reality the audience is being presented with. He's skulking over there like Nosferatu. The only time you actually see Tessa and Hardin get along is when one of them has suffered emotional trauma or they're in a montage.
Yeah.
They never have like a normal conversation.
I don't have anything there.
You'd have me.
Okay, that's not enough.
I don't know what they like. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they're interested in besides just books. I don't know anything about Landon.
Yeah.
I don't even know what major he's actually doing.
Speaking of which, how old is Tessa now? Because
oh my god,
we have to discuss the timeline. Okay, the after timeline is it's incomprehensible. So Tessa begins her freshman year at the beginning of the first movie. The timeline of the first movie is maybe a couple months maximum.
Yeah.
The second movie is 1 month later, and this one picks up immediately after the last one and spans another week or two, maybe.
Maybe we're supposed to believe the first movie spans a year, like they were happy together for several months. You really don't get the scope of that. The second movie, the only like signifier of time we have is the Christmas party and then the New Year's party.
Yeah.
So we know it lasts at least from her birthday on December 18th to New Year's. I'm sure they don't mean it's the same Christmas as the first movie, like the same school year.
I was hoping that we could move to London after graduation.
She is a freshman.
Anyway, yeah, just everything is dealt with badly. Movie sucks.
Bad movie.
It's your cervix. You may not be able to get pregnant. We need to do more tests before we go.
What do you want to see in After 4?
God, I just want to see Tessa like truly stand up for herself and dump him. I want it to be established that Tessa actually can live without him. I would really like that. That would make me feel a lot better. They're not going to do that.
Oh, God, no. I would love to see Dylan Sprouse, although I don't think it's going to happen.
No, there's no way.
If they're bringing anyone back, they'll bring back the waiter.
I'm more into like pasta.
Carbs. Yeah. Love carbs.
The environment and like the landscape of what the characters are dealing with has shifted so much since the first movie. It was a college story.
Now they're trying to make it like 50 Shades of Grey with this whole publishing industry.
Besides, I prefer to get us settled up there while Christian finishes things here.
Christian.
Hi.
Anastasia, hi.
When we started this day, there was only before, but now there's only after.
Chills.